And we're live, apparently.
Maybe.
I am completely new at this, so bear with me. All two of you watching right now. This is actually really just me and KM4ACK. We're just going to have a conversation about our recent issues that we've encountered. But hello, Andy. AA0AM, I see you in the chat there. So first off, it's been a while, so I'm very rusty. I apologize, and I want to say that Hamdom Thoughts is going to try to be back, and now in a live stream format. So my first guest, really born out of just me wanting to talk to this guy about all the stuff we just went through, is essentially Jason here, KM4ACK. He is known, of course, for his extensive Linux research in ham radio and digital communications. He's also known for making these killer antennas, of which I have one. And I actually met Jason back in Huntsville back last year in August, and watched him do some very professional looking car mobile installs as well. The guy knows his stuff. So welcome, Jason. Thank you for joining me today.
I appreciate you having me, Dennis.
Yeah, it's good to have you. It's good to talk with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on lately? I mean, I know I interviewed you on Hamdom Thoughts podcast, maybe what, 2022 or something like that? 2021 maybe? It was during
it might
COVID.
have been.
It was like one of the early episodes. And back then you were still just starting Build-A-Pi. So tell us what's been up since then.
So Build-A-Pi has actually been replaced by 7.3 Linux. Primarily during COVID and all of the shortages that we all saw with the Raspberry Pis, I went ahead and moved over to x86 machines. Of course, none of Build-A-Pi would apply to that because the Raspberry Pi runs an ARM processor. So during that changeover, I went ahead and started working on 7.3 Linux, which will support both the Raspberry Pi and x86. And you get pretty much the same user experience now with, using either device. The script will actually, or at least attempts to pick up which OS you're using and which processor you're using and do the necessary back-end work to get everything installed for you that you choose. But that's kind of the biggest change with Build-A-Pi is we just moved it over and renamed it. Didn't make sense to keep the name Build-A-Pi when we're now working on Linux Mint machines.
Yeah, I love it. I love 7.3 Linux or 73 Linux. It's, as I wrote in my blog, I basically said that it's like standing on the shoulders of giants because you did all the hard work. All I got to do is install Linux, and then I run your script and leave the computer for like 3 hours and then come back, and it will have a prompt for me like, hey, do you want to install Vara FM? And I'll just continue that, and then I'll leave again, come back, and it's all set. And there's so much underneath the hood that's going on that I will only discover later as I'm poking around in there, and I'll say, oh, wow.
Well, and
Jason thought about that, huh?
The only downside is it will never be completely bug-free because a lot of what 7.3 Linux does is grab source code from places. So if links change or things get updated, for instance, I believe 7.3 Linux calls for a install of Ruby 2.7. And I just found out like 2 days ago that that's moved on to Ruby 3.0. So we filed a bug report. I'll go in and get that fixed. But it's kind of constantly chasing your tail with little bitty issues like that pop up on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah. Well, that's the nature of things. I mean, even this morning I was messaging you that I was having issues with Packet taking too long and timing out and all that. There's a constant list of bugs, but I think so. Really, what drew us together in this instance is I felt compelled to switch to Linux from a Windows WinLink gateway. And so for those who have been following in the past, I was very excited when it was like 2021. I got RMS Express set up. I asked permission from the Windows or WinLink sysops to be a sysop. And I think they immediately just said, yes, go for it. Here's your permissions. And then from there, was really inspired by one of the hams over out in Walnut Creek. His call is K9ONC. I guess his CERT program is very heavily ham focused, and they have extensive P2P gateways throughout their city. And he did a Pacificon seminar on the building blocks of a WinLink station. And so I was like, I got to do this. And I bought all the gear I needed and got it all set up. But then what I found after about a year of operation is that Windows it just likes to reboot itself. And sometimes it will reboot into a blue screen, and then you're pretty much down until you check on your machine. And it takes like maybe 4 hours sometimes to run an update. I'm like, what are you doing? Calculating the last digit of pi or something? I mean, what's going on? Why does it take so long to update your system? I could have installed Windows faster than that. So
that's just Windows being Windows.
Yeah, I just wondered what the heck was going on. And so it was always in my mind. I was like, even as early as like 2022, I'd say, I was like, there's got to be a Linux way to do what I'm trying to do here. And the thing that held me on Windows was Vara FM, because I love the mode. I love how efficient it is. And a lot of packet people bag on it because they're like, oh, it can't handle more than one connection and all this, But I'm just like, I don't care. It's fast comparatively to packet. And it's just a great mode. I love it. And so there was never really a chance for me to get that going in Linux until that one time. I think you were still in Build-A-Pi, where you had it running in Wine. And I was like, oh my gosh, he pulled it off. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to let this sit. I'm not going to try it right now because I know I'm just going to get frustrated. And then, of course, this recent event here with one of my machines dying again, I was like, well, I might as well try and get on Linux. And so that's where we're at now. But yeah, thanks for doing all the hard work again on that.
It's always a team effort. As you saw in this project, a lot of times there's multiple people working on things. We all bounce ideas off of one another and just try to move the ball forward for everybody involved. Yeah. It's never just me doing this by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of good help out there in the forums, and a lot of people have already done other work that a lot of times you can play off of to do something that you want to do. So it's never a single person out there making it happen. It's a bunch of us.
And it's very easy to get in your own world when you're, trying to do. You feel like the problem that you're encountering is yours alone, and you get very tunnel vision. And it was actually very difficult for me to just hop into a new forum and ask, hey, I need help with this. I can't figure it out. But once I did that, there was just like a flood of help from all these different people. A few in particular who just almost like, how do you know this stuff? But particularly on the DigiRig forum, that's why I just went recently and just bought a bunch of DigiRigs, because I was just like, this is a great product that has a great community behind it. And of course, the BPQ forum, which, as I was saying before we started the stream, they just know. They'll look at a config and they'll just automatically, just from looking at it for a millisecond, they'll say, oh, this is wrong and this is wrong, and turn around and like help you, clean everything up. So right now we both have Linux dual mode Vara FM and packet gateways running on VHF, right?
Yes.
And how long has yours been running now?
Since the last reboot, a little over 3 days. I was having a few issues trying to auto start things right at the
Mhm.
very end. I finally got the timing issue resolved, and I think the last reboot was a little over 3 days ago.
Nice. And for me, I was waiting on the DigiRigs to replace my DRA50s. I know that there's a way I can make the DRA50 by Masters Communications work. It's something to do with CM108 PTT. But because I had been testing all this time on DigiRig, I was just like, I'm just going to replace it with a DigiRig. And so I forget when I put it on there. Was it Friday? I think it was Friday when I finally, I mean, we've been back and forth on the DMs about it. But
From the time we started to the time we finished, it was just this blur.
it's about a week. I would say it was about a week of struggle.
Probably.
And that's the other thing, because I watch a lot of streams where people diagnose things in real time. Nuggets comes to mind in particular. Temporarily offline's Nuggets. And with that, I mean, it really, I feel like I can't do that because there's too much cursing when I do it.
I can relate to that.
Seriously. I'm just like, there's no way I could diagnose this in real time because I'll just be like ready to toss the laptop out the window. But then, you know, in retrospect, it's always nice. It's always like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And,
yeah, once you know how to do it, you look back and go, well, that was easy. Yeah. But you just don't know what you don't know when you start out.
All right. Well, I just want to say hi to a few people. I see more people kind of sliding in here. We have FAP Labs. He's been on. We got Don, James, KI5OEB, Ham Radio Crusader. Hey, Freddie Mac. Andy Cowley. Let's see who else. And then the other Andy. I think I got everyone. And then 45. It's good to see you, 45. So tell me about the whole impetus to put this. Why is Linux your OS of choice, and why ham radio, Linux based ham radio? Why aren't you just following along with most of the crowd and using all these Windows apps that just seem to work together very easily?
Well, it was when I ran Windows from Windows 3.1 all the way to when Windows 10 was released. It was Windows 10. Windows 10 introduced that auto update where you couldn't turn it off. And it kind of hosed some things up for me. It would happen at the worst possible time. It would want to reboot and do an update. And I just got fed up. And I decided that we were going to make a change here. So, I mean, I ran Windows for ham radio. I ran it for my business. I ran Windows for everything. And when I got fed up, I went to Macs for all of my business and then looked around at the Windows laptop running the ham radio and decided it was going to go too. I didn't know at the time that Linux would be the replacement. I just knew that it wasn't going to be Windows going forward.
Yeah.
I just, some of the choices that Microsoft makes, just, it's infuriating. Yeah. I need to log on and do a 10-minute thing, and 2 hours later, it's done updating.
I feel like, so I was telling you before we started the stream as well that, as I was embarking on this Linux journey to get this gateway going, I would have an issue, and then I'd Google it. And then, sure enough, I'd find a KM4ACK video on how to solve this problem. And it would be like 3 years old. And I'd be like, what? This guy's been doing this forever. But it just made me laugh every time I would find. It's kind of like I'm going down the same path that you kind of pioneered, but it's like I'm years late. So
well, I can tell you every one of those videos, well, at least the vast majority, is only because I broke it before you did.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I can't believe just the amount of progress. There are so many things in 7.3 Linux that I have not even explored yet that I know I need to. Uh, but you know, it's kind of like you're confronted when you run 7.3 Linux. A nice little GUI pops up. First, it scans your system and it says, "Does it have these things?" Then it pops up this nice little thing, and it's like, "What do you want to install?" And I just like went down the list. You should have like a little box at the top just says select all, right? Because I just went the whole thing, and I was, I don't know what half of these things are, but I'm just going to install. And as I'm going along, I'm just like, yes, he thought of that. Wow, you know. And so there's just a lot to it. If you haven't given it a try, I think you say on the GitHub site that it's for Pi. It works on Pi and it works on Evolve, but you're pretty sure it will work on other Linuxes, right?
Yeah, so it works on Linux Mint, not specifically the Evolve laptop. Linux Mint, and it should work on most other Debian flavors. Since Mint is a Debian-based OS, so anything that's Debian-based, it's got at least a good chance of working on. But I specifically develop for Linux Mint. That's just the OS that I prefer.
Just saying hi over there to the tech prepper. Didn't know that you'd be joining us, but good to see you. So tech prepper is another person I need to have on this stream. He's currently working on MCOM tools, which is a very, it's kind of like a parallel endeavor, but with his own development mixed in. And so he's trying to get a whole Linux setup for kind of field operation, but with a bent on just predictable communications. I don't know. Maybe I'm butchering that TTP. Let me know.
I think he's trying to make his a lot more bulletproof. Limit the choices and the options, but what you do get is absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
I think that's his primary goal. Yeah,
and a lot of testing, and just recently released some because I'm one of his Patreon members, and he released some stuff on how to build the community version of his MCOM tools, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So going to give that a try as well. But I feel like there's just so much that I need to catch up on. So overall, with your gateway being up for 3 days now in Linux, dual mode, have you had a lot of Vara FM customers on that thing?
No, I don't have a high profile gateway here. We've got another excellent gateway here that's also dual mode. I'm assuming those guys run it on Windows, but I don't know that for a fact. Mine's a much lower antenna. So you got to be probably within 5 to 10 miles of me to be able to get into it. The best antenna I've got, I reserve for APRS, just because I think that gets more day-to-day use here than a WinLink gateway would. So the gateway, you know, it's nice for those that can get into it, but it's more about a learning experience for me to be able to know how to build one of those out. And then if I want to test, I don't have to hammer somebody else's gateway. If I want to play with something, I can hammer my own and not tie up the primary gateway.
So with APRS, how are you running that? Is that on a Pi?
Yeah, still running that on a Pi 3. And that's pretty much what I'm using my Pis for nowadays, is one-off little single projects. So the Digipeater runs on a Pi. I've got a portable Digipeater that runs on a Pi. A couple of other little things sitting here in the office. But I'm moving more and more things to x86 machines because the price of the machines are just coming down. You know, the Wowie computer, I think it's like $80. And it's a little bit faster than a Pi 4, maybe not quite as fast as the Pi 5, but I find that the x86 processors are a lot easier to work with, and you don't have to fight tooth and nail with them the way you do when you're trying to get some things working with the ARM processor on the Pi. So
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the things that a lot of people recommend the Pi to me. Like, I've never heard of it before. You should try the Raspberry Pi. And I'm like, yeah. But I was looking at running Bar IFM on a Pi, and I was reading about Wine running a Windows emulator on Pi and how you need to have an additional layer of emulation.
Box
Which,
86.
yeah, Box 86, which will do ARM to x86, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go straight to the x86 chip. I don't need to.
Yeah,
Mess
it's
with ARM.
doable. There's a guy by the name of Kelly. I can't remember his call sign right offhand. He's out on the West Coast somewhere, but he's got a good write-up in the Build-A-Pi forum for exactly how to get that running. But like I said, it's just so much easier running on the x86 platform that, and two, that Evolve laptop is really what kind of did me in. When I picked that thing up for $60, and I've got
Yes.
the computer, a battery, a screen, a keyboard,
Yes.
everything all in for that price. I couldn't even get a Raspberry Pi at all. And if I did see one, even at
Yes.
regular
That's
market
another
price,
thing.
it was going to be more expensive.
It was the demand for the Pi, its unavailability. I used to follow, like, back in, I would say 2019, 2020, early, 2020, like Julian OH8STN, and he was trying his efforts with the what do you call that thing again? It was like the hat that you put on a Pi that
The Draws hat.
Draws hat, yeah, by Northwest Digital Radio.
Yes.
And then he was kind of bashing his head against that, trying to get it all to work. And I just kept on seeing, okay, being out in the field, having this open board, that probably could not take a drop of rain before letting the smoke out. And having all these dongles, having all these things that you need to add on top of that, my own experience with so many SD cards just randomly just dying, and I don't even know why they would die. I was just like, no. And I think we've kind of, as digital operators, we've all kind of reached that conclusion. I don't know. There's some people are still diehard Raspberry Pi, but I've seen a general move that everyone's like, okay, probably not gonna do this on the Pi. I think even the tech prepper he originally was doing Raspberry Pi work, and then he's like, no, this doesn't work for out in the
I
open.
think he abandoned it before I did.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's cool that your Build-A-Pi stuff was portable. I mean, it was just basically Linux, right?
Right.
But I like that, and that it's not a lot of wasted effort with specific, like, Raspberry Pi knowledge that, okay, I'm basically giving up on that dream or something and having to do away with a lot of knowledge.
And like I said, for very specific use cases, I still prefer the Raspberry Pi. I just don't use it as a full-blown field computer anymore. I think the x86 machines are a better choice.
I really like the fact that, well, I mean, I was telling you about how my trackpad dies whenever my radio transmits now. So now I have to, with the Evolve, I need to have a separate, like, I have this little Bluetooth mouse that I have to have with it, because as soon as I do some Vara FM, I can't interface with my system anymore.
Yeah, that's not a Evolve only issue. That's just RFI getting back into that trackpad.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, all trackpads seem to be really sensitive to RFI. I don't know, I don't know anything about the design of them or what might cause that, but I've ran into that more than once on multiple different laptops.
Hey, Gaston, can you tell us, does your FZM1 Mark II, does that also have that problem with the trackpad? I'm curious. Well, he has the I key, so I don't know if that has a trackpad on it. But
okay.
That'd be interesting to know. Overall, I feel like, I can't get too far away from my mobile pack. So the computer is going to be right next to it, especially if I'm sharing the battery. I'm using a Denko battery and basically splitting that. One goes to the radio, one goes to the Evolve.
Okay.
And I can't get too far away from the radio. But the result of that is that it probably pumps like 5 watts into the trackpad and fries something. But that's the other thing I love about the Evolve. I don't need a separate power supply. All I need is one of those little, I don't have one around me here, but one of those little adapters for 12 volts. And hook that little thing in. Yeah, there you go.
So
The
really focus,
5.5.
Yeah, that one's
5.5 by
5.5 on that
2.1.
end, and then whatever it is on that end.
1.35 millimeters on the other side. And that's perfect for the Evolve, which is great. But I remember when you posted that, the right angle ones, I was like, stop making me buy stuff, man.
Hey, by the way, Dennis, that same adapter fits the Kenwood D74 that you own.
Yes. Yes. I noticed that later. I was like, oh, cool. 2 birds with 1 stone.
Dual purpose.
And so what I do is I have that, and then the regular 5.5 by 2.1 will plug into the desk charger for my FT4X.
Mm-hmm.
So I can also charge my HT with my Denko. So
right.
I just love the uniformity of 12 volts if it's available. And it's very hard to do that on a Pi. And most other laptops, I would say, are 19 volts, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do some kind of conversion.
Yeah.
But
even USB-C. I mean, I've got some radios that'll take USB-C charging. I would still prefer it to be 12 volt right into the side of the radio.
And so TTP is answering our question here. So negative on the RF trackpad death. And he says it has a circular knob, almost a nub, with 2 mouse buttons. So that's pretty cool. I personally, I used to carry around one of those little variable boost buck converters for whatever laptop I had. And then that was kind of a pain because that's yet another piece of gear that can fail. So it's really nice. Just 12 volts across the board.
The problem is there's not enough 12 volt computers on the market.
Yeah. Is the Wowie, is that one 12 volts?
Yes, the Wowie is 12 volts. I've got a Gateway laptop that's 12 volts, the Evolve that's 12 volts. And then I was actually looking at another one on Amazon that I may end up picking up. But I've got 3 or 4 of them around that are all 12 volts. That's my preference.
All right, so TTP is saying that you're going to try FZM1 next month.
Maybe, if everything goes well. We're kind of cooking up something in the background.
Nice. And hello, Shooter Ready. Good to see you. All right. Well, so just tell me a little bit about, you know, with 7.3 Linux, some of the, because I'm sure you have probably a lot of stories, but some of the hardest things that you had to figure out to kind of iron these out and have something that's kind of like almost like a product that you're able to package and ship.
There's been a lot of changes over the years that I made because other people struggled with something. For instance, if you want to start rig control to do a Pat Winlink connection, a lot of people struggle with doing that from the command line, starting the rig control daemon and getting the right radio plugged in and maybe the right serial speed connection, all kinds of different variables you can plug in there. So one of the decisions we kind of made early on, once we saw the people were struggling with that, was let's just use FL Rig to do it. Because now I could standardize everything in the background to just point the rig control daemon to FL Rig. Now, you don't have to have FL Rig. If you want to configure it from the command line, then that's absolutely available. But I just found a lot of people struggled with that. So it's not necessarily always what's the hardest, but it's what's going to give people the best operating experience.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that come to Linux, they don't want to open the terminal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I can give them a GUI interface to work with, a lot of times that's better. And then if you're more experienced or you want to do it another way, that option's always available to you.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things over the last 5 years or so has been like that. Again, with Pat WinLink, in order to get something going, you've got to start your rig control. Then you've got to start some sort of modem, whether that's VARA, whether that's RDOP, or whether that's Direwolf. You've got to get that running in the background. Then you need to restart Pat, so make sure it picks up all of your changes. Well, that's 3 different terminal windows you may have to open. So that's where Pat Menu came up with, or came from, and I don't even think you've really played with Pat Menu.
Yeah, I was clicking here and there. I actually, I think I accidentally downloaded the packet stations list because I was pressing too many buttons in the Pat menu. I was like retrieving mail, and I was like, "What the heck is this gigantic thing I'm downloading right now?" And turned out it was like WinLink informing me of all the packet stations in the world.
Well, and that's why I 7.3 and all the way back to Build-A-Pi, 7.3 Linux and Build-A-Pi was always user choice, because if you're more advanced and you don't want to mess with Pat Menu, then just don't install it. And write your own scripts or run it manually from the command line, whichever way you prefer. If you're not interested in this app or that app, you don't have to install them. And I use it a lot for, let's say I just need to spin up a system real quick with Yak and Direwolf. That's the only 2 things that I have to install to get that running. So that's kind of always been the thing. I've had a lot of questions over the years. Why don't I build an ISO image, have everything installed, and just release it that way? I don't have time to maintain an ISO. And B, what I want on my system is not going to be what you want on your system per se.
Yeah.
I'd rather give everybody the option to kind of roll their own.
It's a lot of work to come up with an image for someone. It really is a lot of work. I worked at a company where we would make images for every client, customized, and just the build process took like a couple days.
Right.
For everyone's images to be made. So, yeah. But that's something that initially, because I had that kind of Windows induced laziness, where you just run a few programs and they just kind of talk to each other, and through the GUI, how to like connect things, right? And hopping into Linux Mint, I was like, oh boy, I got like 5 terminal windows open, and I gotta maintain change tracking on, 4 different config files, make sure that they're all referencing the same port, the same configuration, And so I think I forget what it was on the DMs that I was sending you, but I was very, you reached me at a point where I was very frustrated.
That was the
and I was just like, why doesn't this work? Why can't this just work?
Yeah, that was because you wanted 2 things to access the sound card at the exact same time.
Yes. Or not even do same, because that would be a conflict, right? To both transmit at the same time. I just wanted 2 things to be listening on that card. And so I'd start up VARA FM, and then Direwolf would be like, I can't access that. It's in use. And I'm like, yes, but come on, this just works in Windows. What's going on here?
All right, so there's another prime example, though, is us going through this process. 7.3 Linux had a very, very basic virtual sound card in it that had worked for a few things I had done in the past. It was nowhere near adequate for this project. So as soon as I have time to sit down and do some coding, I'm going to take what me and you learned with a virtual sound card and implement it by default into 7.3 Linux.
There you go.
because there's no damage. You don't do any harm by going ahead and installing it. It's just there and waiting for you if you decide you want to use it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was telling you earlier that so I did take two. I did a whole clean Linux Mint install, and I was like, okay, what did I do? I need to make sure I know this and that it works. And in fact, it's connected right now to one of the man packs that I have. But I actually had to reference my own blog post to remember everything that I did. And so it would actually be so much better if I ran 7.3 Linux and knew about it and just kind of configured it for me. That'd be awesome.
Won't be able to probably do all of it, but we can at least do the virtual sound card portion. And I'll probably also go ahead and so Build-A-Pi always had a way to install BPQ 32 or no, Lin BPQ. I did not put that over into 7.3 Linux for the x86 machines. I will probably go back and add that at some point in the future as well. That probably needs to be ported over so that it'll run on, whichever device you happen to choose.
Yeah, cool. It's funny. I was trying to say later TTP within this streaming stuff, and it said that YouTube rejected your comment. It thinks it's spam. I own the stream. Why would it think my own comment is spam? I don't know.
There are there's certain characters that you can't put into the comments. Regardless.
I just said later TTP. Maybe it thinks the letters TP is something. I don't know.
Quit spamming your own channel.
Yeah, I know, right? I got moderated in my own channel. Nice. So you mentioned that. You mentioned, incorporating some of the learnings that we had. But do you have other things that you're thinking about that kind of like to-dos, or I wish I could get to that in 7.3 Linux that you would like to see happen?
No real long-term goals. The project is kind of just a maintain and beat back as many bugs as I can. If something really cool popped up, a new modem or something like that we could use that was even faster than Vara. My only complaint with Vara, because I totally agree with you as far as it's a fantastic modem. It's faster than Packet. I really wish it was cross-platform and we didn't have to run it under Wine.
Yeah,
that's my only gripe with it. So if something else came along that was as fast or faster that would run on Linux, I would definitely want to get that incorporated as quick as possible. But no, at this point, there's really not a whole lot of new things I want to pack in there. More just tweaking the things that are already in it.
Yeah, refining them.
Yep. Just like
I remember
the virtual
when
sound card.
I went into, I think it was the Linux channel in Toads when I first had this problem with the sound dual apps going to the sound card. And some of the first reactions to my problem statement was, oh, Wine, Wine is a hot mess, is some of the comments I got. And I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't help me much, but yes, it is. And so if we can avoid Wine at all and go native, that would be probably the best.
I hear people say that, and I don't know what their experience has been with it. The Evolve laptop right over here, over my shoulder, has been running Wine and Vara for 2 years now, and I've never had a minute's worth of trouble out of it. Nice. I don't go trying to do a lot of other things inside of Wine. I don't run WinLink Express. I just wanted Wine to run Vara. And maybe it's because I've left it, rudimentary, that I haven't had any issues out of it, but literally rock solid for 2 solid years now.
Nice.
So yeah, I hear that about Wine.
That's the classic YMMV. Your mileage may vary, because some people,
yes.
I've had horrible experiences with the Raspberry Pi to the point where I'm just like, I will not use it unless it's the only option I have. But then, tons of people, there's just like, no, I've had this thing running on this Pi 2 since, 2011, and it's still going good. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what it is. But hey, Tank Radio, good to see you. And see if anyone else has joined here.
I need to catch up with Tank.
Yeah.
I may have to call Jason and get Tank's phone number because I don't think I have it.
So if you are going to Hamvention, put a 1 in the chat. I want to see. I want to know if who I'm going to be seeing at Hamvention. Are you going, Jason?
I am definitely going. I didn't know you were going, though.
Yeah, I am. And I'll be hanging out with the Coffee and Ham Radio's crew. But maybe I might get sick of them after day 2, and then I'll just be like, just leave them after a while. But no, it's going to be my first time at Dayton, so we'll see how that goes.
It is a truckload of fun.
Yeah, that's what I hear. A lot of people say that you can't. It's like it's too big, like it's really, really big, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around what's going on all over the Hamvention. I can't imagine that because I've been to Huntsville. I've been to several Hamfests, and really it's just about a huge flea market, a bunch of vendors, and then, hanging out with the different people. But
have you been to Orlando?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I have not been to Hamcation.
Okay.
But I guess people are setting high expectations for me because they say it's really big.
You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. And FEP Labs is saying I should get a media pass. I don't even know how to do that.
On their website, you can reach out to them.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I will try to do that then. And I will do some recordings here and there for the Hamdom Thoughts podcast. But I registered under Denko Enterprises when it said company. Who knows? Denko might acquire Hamdom Thoughts rights. So yeah, let me know if you're going to be at the Hamvention, and we'll be looking for you. Jason, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or plug?
Not that I can think of. Nothing comes up right off the top of my head anyway.
Yeah, again, I really want to thank you for just kind of bearing with my rants on the DMs. And
I understand the frustration.
I don't think I have the temperament for a ham nugget style stream because I just feel like, why doesn't this work? And, I can relate with maybe Big Jim.
You're just going to need a producer that's got a beat button.
But it's definitely just yesterday I was putting together just a simple kind of box that I was making, kind of like a drawer made out of wood, and I was using a pocket hole jig and just trying to put it's a very simple thing, but I guess the pocket hole jig was not clamping the wood hard enough, so it would slide the moment when I try to drill the hole in, and I was like, why is this hard? I can't understand. So I guess it's just more training for me, more practice at adversity, because I definitely cannot live stream real-time things like that. You guys would just laugh at all the frustration I'm having.
Well, they would laugh at me, and then they would be bored to death because I would forget I was streaming and just focus on the problem at hand. So that would be me right there. Yeah, always seen the top of this guy's head for like the last hour and a half.
Yeah. So you were at Hamcation this past year?
Yes. Yeah. I go to Hamcation, Hamvention, and Huntsville. Those are the 3 that I try to make every year. And then there's 1 or 2 local ones that I like to make when I can.
Mm-hmm. For me this year, it's going to be Hamvention, Huntsville, and Pacificon. I always go to Pacificon.
Well, it's right there in your backyard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty close. So it's small, but it's a nice gathering of local people, and then potentially CPAC. But CPAC's really close to Hamvention, so.
By the way, I saw something on Twitter yesterday. I have no idea if I can make this work or not.
I'm gonna make you solo. Uh-oh. There you go.
Yep, I had the virtual or the infinite screen going on. That was a post that I saw on Twitter yesterday. I have no idea what this is, but apparently it says discover at 2024 Hamvention. And this is coming. I'm trying to make this as big as possible. So it looks like ICOM might be introducing something new.
Nice. Well, that's cool. I definitely, I think I saw this and I was like, what's so new about the 718? But I mean, it is new, but I mean, it doesn't have like an SDR screen or anything. I was like, well, why should I be excited about that? So I missed that little mystery box that they had there.
Yeah, I don't know. I just stumbled across that either yesterday or day before. I don't remember who posted it, but I was like, all right, note to self. Go to ICOM's booth first.
So I wanted to do this real quick before ending the stream here, but I wanted to show the crowd. Let me see if I could. This is basically the gateway itself on 7.3 Linux Mint running on the Evolve. And right now it's doing Vara FM listening and running Lin VPQ. Or no, it's actually not running Lin VPQ. This is all manual right now. It's running Direwolf and Vara at the same time. And it's basically just picking up the beacons from my main gateway that's running Lin VPQ. But it started off as a proof of concept. There were many times where I thought, okay, this is not really going to happen. I'm just going to give up. And Jason would always come to the rescue. He'd always answer me. Sometimes at very odd times, like late at night. I guess he'd finally get to his DMs and he'd be like, hey, okay, why don't you try this? But it was, I'm very happy that I'm able to get this now on Linux. And now it's just a matter of fine tuning. Even before the stream started, I posed a problem to him. I'm like, well, how do I review the logs of Direwolf if I'm running it within like tmux or something like that? And figured out something for that. So, I mean, it's just a constantly evolving thing. And it's a really great kind of puzzle to always be working on.
Hey, Dennis, out of curiosity, what's your processor running at right now with Vara and Direwolf running?
Let me take a look. Move it out of the way here. So about 25%, maybe.
Okay. That's almost identical to what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 28 to 32% on the Wowie. So,
and during the height of operation, I'll be running these plus Pat to pick up some mail. And it's just right around half, 50%, I would say.
Okay.
But
I think that's definitely workable then.
Yeah. James is asking, how is Denko doing? Well, it's doing all right. There's some stuff in stock. It's probably the first month since Denko started that stuff is in stock and it doesn't immediately get bought. So I think everyone is pretty much like, okay, had too much Denko, I'm done.
What's the link to your store, Dennis?
Oh yeah, I got a little banner for that. Hold on. So there's the store right there, shop.denko.enterprises. and give it a visit. I've got kits ready to go and completed builds, and kind of a not so secret project that I have currently is to double the size of my main product, which is a 6 amp hour. So I'm trying to get a kit going for a 12 amp hour Denko battery, and that will include a 30 amp BMS. So it's definitely designed for field operation and QRO, because 30 amps is probably almost every 100 watt transmitter that you could lug out into the field. So that'll be exciting. It's just really the thing that's given me a hard time is documenting the steps of building it. Actually putting together the kit is no problem at all. It's just, I got to come up with a nice, clean bunch of steps. So, yep, 12 amp hours, that's coming up. And then the usual, I mean, I say on the site they're 5.5, but they're, you know, they're a lot closer to 6 amp hours, the current products right now. But yeah, Denko's doing great. And for you, you were telling me about your antennas. How is that business going?
So they typically hit the store around the 1st of each month, and they won't last more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
If I had more time, I could probably get them in there, you know, more than once a month, but it's taking everything I got just to make that happen.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
All kinds of different projects going on in the background. Plus I got to hold down a day job, so actually pay the bills.
Yeah. You and me both.
So,
well, I don't see any questions in the chat. I think I'm going to call it. This is the first Hamdom Thoughts stream. Thanks everyone for joining. It looks like we reached, I think, upwards of 20 people. We're down to 16 watching now. And again, Jason, thanks for taking time out of your Sunday to join me. And really, I mean, after all the diagnosing and, you know, all the different things that we were trying on our respective Evolve laptops, I just wanted to talk with you about it. You know, the DM method of text and all that. I just felt like I wanted to actually hear from you about some of these things. So
I learned several things through this process. So it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for paving the way. I don't think I would have even attempted this if 7.3 Linux didn't exist. I mean, I would have tried it, but I would have been very secret about it because it probably would have gave up right away. But all right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Oh, I see Ghostman DKA there. And yeah, Tom, Tango, Oscar, Mike. I see a few others that I didn't see earlier. But thanks for joining me on the stream. And the audio of this will also be found on where you download podcasts for Hamdom Thoughts. So thanks a lot. Anything else you want to say in closing, Jason?
That's it.
All right.
7.3, guys.
7.3, everyone. Thank you.